Hi, this is my first ever video on YouTube. My name is Shaq and this is Brightpoint Design. So as I said, this is my first ever YouTube video, and the reason why I've decided to do this is to show what I will be doing over the course of the next couple of weeks. Essentially, I'll be creating a PC case from scratch. There's a massive modding community that creates a lot of different designed PC cases with such detail and such expertise, and I thought I'd give it a try, and I thought it'd be brilliant and a fantastic opportunity for me to actually showcase it on a video as well at the same time. So let's go ahead and have a look at some of the sketch designs that I've done, and then I'll show you a mock-up, full-size mock-up. I've done that at cardboard. This has been going on for the last 10 years now, probably more than that to be honest, but every time I came to actually doing something about it, something else came along, and unfortunately I never got the chance to get it done. So now is probably the best time, especially with everything that's going on, for me to actually get something done about it. So let's have a look at the first couple of sketches.
So in this first image I've sketched the basic design of the case, and the first thing you'll notice is that it isn't a typical shape. The reason for this was that I wanted something completely different to the standard keyboard shape you see off the shelf for standard MIDI oval tower cases. The front is sloped back, and although the lines look sharp, I do want to try and get a front fascia with curved sides. The side panels will both be clear except for the bottom and top, so you can see the rig inside, and I might want to try and create a smoked effect on them depending on how they'll be to create in the first place. And you might notice that there's a slot for an optical drive, and so this should give you an idea on how long I've been working on this. So as we move on to the next image, you can see a lot going on. Let me try and break it down. I was trying to figure out the best way of constructing the frame of the case and what the setup inside might need in terms of structure to hold components like the motherboard. Speaking of which, you can see towards the bottom left corner what looks like a motherboard tray with the I/O and expansion slots for cards. This I thought was a better solution for the main components of the board, because it will give me a lot of flexibility when it comes to upgrading my rig in the future. You can see on the right side I was looking at water cooling solutions and how the layout for the hoses might have worked. Go easy on me because this is almost 10 years ago since I drew this. To be honest, I'm not 100% on water cooling, and that's simply because it's a lot more work, but the end result does look cool, so we'll see. In the middle you can see I'm trying to look at creating a front fascia that slopes back and detaches too. That and the top of the case. I figured this may be a better solution considering I want both panels to lift up on hinges. And inside there will be basic support for the motherboard tray and some sort of hard disk enclosure. Although with SSDs like M.2 NVMe's and sitting directly on the motherboard, I doubt I'll be getting more than 1 or 2.5 inch SSDs, so an enclosure for them might not be needed. The same goes for the optical drive. To be honest, I don't really have a stack of DVDs or Blu-ray discs that I'll be needing access to, so I don't think that's going to be required anymore. Here you can see some of the dimensions I'm working with, so it's not too different to a standard case, although it is longer because of the front slope. However, since I'll probably not have an optical drive or a hard disk enclosure, I can probably reduce the length. I figured that for the PSU it would be better to just slide it in the bottom and have a plate that would be attached to it and the case. That way I could close the bottom of the tray. I'd still have a vent over the PSU into the main area to support cooling. So before we look at this image, remember when I was talking about the case models at the start? Well, ever thought of having a waterfall in your case? Didn't think so. Now looking back, I think it would probably hinder my plan to make this case as quiet as possible. Don't get me wrong, it would look cool, but even with cold water, but I think it might be over the top. In the top right hand corner you can see I was trying to look at cable management solutions for the motherboard wiring. Because of the unusual shape of the case, I think the wiring might be a bit tricky. Finally, you can see some basic plans of how I would try to create the outer shell of the case that would fit on the internal frame. Since I now want to create 2 clear side panels, most of these ideas have gone out the window. Since then, I thought I could create a curved tray for the bottom of the case and support structure for the top and front and back. That way I can reduce the amount of material I'll be using and make it a little bit more simple for myself. So this is the mock-up I made out of cardboard. It has a kind of one cell shape to it, I know, with the front at 15-degree angle. The side panel, although it looks like I'm creating a window within an actual panel, I might try and create a completely curved panel out of acrylic, which would be easier than glass. But I know there are some companies who would create the shape if I gave them the specs. The top is going to be detachable, and so is the front fascia once I get it done, which is proving to be a bit more difficult, but I hope to get it done in the next video. In this tool you can see the side panel open. I was thinking of using gas springs or even having it motorized and having buttons somewhere in the case to open and close each panel. It all depends on the complexity, to be honest. Inside is still pretty bare, but I plan to get an old motherboard in just to see how it would look. By that time I'll have the removable motherboard tray set up as well. This is the back panel open, and again I would like to create it out of tempered glass, maybe even smoked on this side to hide the cable management. I think the motherboard tray will need to be a bit more substantial than how it looks right now. It looks simple, but my plan is to create a frame out of angled steel or aluminium, depending on which is easy to bend to shape, and the bottom of the case, and then for the rest of it, sheet metal to create the shape of it. This is the rear of the case, and you can see it really does look like a wind cell. Here you'll have the I/O connections, expansion card slot, and at the bottom the PSU. I think for the PSU I will definitely have a fixing plate to connect it to the PSU and then to the case, so that I can just slide the PSU in from the back. As I said, the top will be detachable, and I will either use screws or some sort of connectors. One thing you will notice is there is not much space for fans, so I'm going to have figure that one out. I could probably create some space for two 120mm fans at the front for intake, but the back might be a little difficult. Another thing I have encountered is that since these side panels will be hinged, I'm going to have to figure out how to keep them closed. Now, if I'm using gas springs or have it motorized, and if I do get them full glass panels with this curved design, I couldn't really use magnets. I might be able to get some sort of black border along the bottom, but that will also mean that I'll need to get some sort of like magnetic catches like you see in the cupboards. So that's the plan and the design. There's still some design work to go on before we're ready to start building this. Hopefully I should have most of it completed by the next video. I hope that you've enjoyed watching this, and please drop a comment below or any suggestions or ideas you might have. I am just starting, so I would really appreciate a like. And if you would like to see more, then please subscribe and hit the bell icons for when I upload my next part of the project. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.